I never believed in ghosts, at least not until that night. It was supposed to be an adventure, something for the stories we'd tell at the next gathering. A group of friends and I had heard about the abandoned house in the hollow at the edge of the rural countryside. It had sat there for years, uninhabited, forgotten by time and its inhabitants. The old-timers in town used to tell stories about the place, that it was cursed, that strange things happened there after dark, that the house was never truly abandoned. But like most locals, I dismissed it. These things were just tales meant to scare children. We drove out to the house on a crisp autumn evening, the kind of night where the sky bled into darkness early and the air had that sharp, biting chill. Our headlights bounced off the overgrown path leading to the house. The place was hidden deep in the woods, a good few miles off the main road, and the land surrounding it seemed untouched by time. The trees pressed in, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers, their limbs creaking in the wind as if they were whispering secrets of there. Oh, we parked the car at the end of the narrow road and climbed out, the crunch of dry leaves underfoot the only sound breaking the eerie silence of the place. There was a sense of stillness in the air, the kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I could almost hear my heart thudding in my ears, drowning out the normal hum of the world. The house loomed ahead, a decaying structure that had once been a beautiful home. Now, it was little more than a skeleton, with broken windows, chipped paint, and a sagging roof. Vines crawled up the sides like they were trying to reclaim it. The porch steps groaned beneath our weight as we approached, the wood brittle and warped. Ready for this? Sam, one of my braver friends, grinned and pushed open the creaking door. His enthusiasm was contagious, but even then, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling in my gut. Yeah, I lied, trying to mask my own unease. The air inside the house was stale, thick with the scent of mildew and rotting wood. The darkness swallowed us whole, and the beam of our flashlights danced off. The walls, revealing cracked wallpaper, torn curtains, and remnants of a life that had once been lived here. The floorboards creaked ominously as we made our way through the house, our footsteps sounding unnaturally loud. We started in the living room, taking in the dilapidated furniture, the dust-covered shelves, and the old fireplace that had long since been abandoned. Cobwebs hung from the corners like forgotten memories. It was the kind of place that should have felt completely abandoned. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still here, watching us. "Check this out," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible as she pushed open a door at the back of the room. It led to a narrow hallway lined with doors. Most of them were locked or broken, but one at the end of the hall stood slightly ajar, its hinges rusted. Without thinking, I followed her as she stepped inside the room. It was smaller than the others, and the walls were lined with old, faded portraits. The faces in the paintings were twisted, their expressions strange and unsettling. It was like they were watching us, their eyes following our every movement. But what caught my attention was the odd, almost otherworldly coldness in the air. It didn't make sense. There was no reason for it. We were deep into the house now, and the chill in the air was growing thicker. "Do you feel that?" I asked, turning to Sarah. She froze, her flashlight flickering for a moment before steadying. "Yeah, I thought it was just me." Suddenly, we heard a faint sound, a scraping noise coming from the floor above us. It was subtle at first, like something dragging along the wood, but then it grew louder, unmistakable. Something or someone was moving around upstairs. "Maybe it's just the house settling," Sam called out from the other room, his voice tinged with nervous laughter. Old houses do that, but I wasn't convinced. The sound wasn't like any creak I'd heard before. It was deliberate, almost as if something or someone was pacing the floor above us. I turned to the others, but Sarah and I were already moving toward the stairs, a sense of dread settling in my stomach. We had to know what was up there. We climbed the staircase slowly, the old wood groaning beneath our feet as we ascended. The noise was louder now, echoing down the hall from the second floor. When we reached the top, the hall was even darker than downstairs. The walls here were even more decayed, and the air was so thick with dust it felt like we were breathing in centuries of decay. I glanced down the hallway and saw a door at the far end, slightly ajar. and the faintest light peeking through the crack. Something wasn't right. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up again. Without a word, we made our way down the hallway, the air growing colder with each step. The light from our flashlights flickered, struggling against the oppressive dark. As we reached the door, the scraping noise stopped. I pushed it open, and the room was empty, except for a single rocking chair in the center. It was old, covered in dust, and yet it rocked back and forth on its own, creaking rhythmically, as though some unseen force was moving it. The sound echoed in the silence of the room, but there was something about it that sent a chill straight to my bones. The room was freezing, colder than the rest of the house. "Do you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her breath visible in the air. I nodded, but I couldn't answer. The air felt thick with something malevolent, pressing in on us from all sides. The chair stopped rocking, and suddenly, there was silence, a deep, heavy silence that seemed to smother everything. Then I saw it, a shadow, moving swiftly in the corner of my eye. I turned, but there was nothing. No sign of movement, no sound. Just the empty room. But I knew what I'd seen. My heart was racing now, my breath coming in shallow gasps. Something was in here with us. "Let's go." I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. We turned to leave, but the door slammed shut with a force that rattled the walls. We were trapped. The lights flickered, and then everything went black. The scraping sound returned, louder now, almost as if it was circling us. Something was coming closer, and I could hear it breathing, shallow, ragged breaths from the corner of the room. We weren't alone. I don't know how long we stood there, frozen, but eventually, the door creaked open again, and we bolted from the room, stumbling over each other in our panic. We made it to the stairs, but the house seemed to come alive with whispers, creaks, and footsteps behind us. We didn't stop running until we were back outside, the front door slamming shut behind us. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The house had shown us its true nature, and it was alive. Alive in ways we couldn't explain. That was the last time we ever went near the house in the hollow. To this day, I still hear those dragging footsteps in my nightmares, always getting closer. And I know that whatever it was, it's still there, waiting in the dark corners of that